Welcome back to the second installment of this long-awaited video. I took a bit of a break for summer, and on my return I started working hard to put this video together, just in time for this build to win the 80's cars group build organized by the Wheel and Screw Discord. I will put the link in the description if anyone is interested in joining. I am very proud of this achievement and how much all the hard work you're seeing has paid off. I don't want to forget the other great entries that were submitted, as I'm always amazed by the talent of the other peoples participating. This may be an additional reason for subscribing and sticking with me today and in future installments to see how I put this whole build together. In the last video I managed to sort out the suspension's height and front steering system. This was needed before I painted. As in this video I want to complete the body with color, clear coat and polishing, so I can set it aside and focus on the engine and interiors. Part of the steps to get a clean finish is to cover up all the mistakes I did when scribing the doors. A nice reminder to be more careful when scribing, especially when it comes to corners or changes of inclination. I used Tamiya putty diluted with a little bit of lacquer thinner to make it a bit more malleable. I am pleased that there isn't much deformation on the body, as I've sometimes witnessed in past builds. But the putty has become a major savior when correcting mistakes either mine or from the producer. With the putty now dry, I can sand it to a nice smooth finish, hoping nothing will be shown too much when spraying. Worst case scenario, I will have to do some more work. In case it was not clear from the initial video or from the body itself, this kit has a visible engine, and I want to spend some time and effort in detailing it as much as possible. Upon further inspection, it does look like the bonnet, or hood if you are in America, doesn't open as much as I want. I am quite fresh after watching a couple of videos, which I will link down below, about how to custom make hinges, and I felt inspired enough to chop off the current hinges and iterate over a solution that can help me achieve what I want. I will start by trying out what I've seen the most, making hinges using brass, as it's extremely easy to bend and work with. To make these iterations easy, I will install two small brass tubes where the dashboard will clip into, to have a stable hinge connection, and glue them in place using CA glue.
A few moments later.
While this seems to work as expected, I'm also very skeptical on the way it will attach to the bonnet. I fear it will be showing way too much when the engine bay is open, so I decide to do a second iteration. In this second iteration I have used styrene rods and sheets, and while I'm able to get something working, it does look like it's way too bulky, especially where it attaches to the bonnet. I seem to have built the confidence that 1mm border of the styrene sheet is enough to hold the bonnet open once glued to it. We'll see about it, and in the meantime I also search for actual Golf bonnet hinges on the web to have a good understanding of what shape I should be looking at. With this in mind, I start to carve the right shape, hinges, and all ready to be assembled. The final result looks very promising, and I can call this done. With all the work done on the body and underside, it's finally time to get the colors paint sorted. I will use white primer for the body, as I want the main color to really shine and get the highest saturation level out of it. I am mostly using Mr. Hobby Aqueous Surfacer 1000, and I hope it's pronounced like that, as primer. as I found it very easy to work with, but definitely not to pronounce it, with almost no residual smell, and it coats very nicely and evenly. One small thing to note: this primer is much more liquid than any other I've used so far, so it's important to check carefully if you decide to thin it further. I had almost a 1 to 1.2 ratio of thinner to color. As you remember, I have those beautiful BBS RS wheels that should be chromed. So while I'm at the spray booth, I will use Mr. Color Black Gloss Lacquer to prime the wheels and finally try out the AK Super Chrome I've been sitting around for a while. I've been mostly using it by manually brushing it on some surfaces, but never with the airbrush. Finally, time for the color coat. I've been researching a bit for this car, and being this a group build for 80's cars, I couldn't find a better color than teal to give it the right vibe. Clearly, this wasn't a stock color. The GTI came out in 4 different colors, if I remember correctly: red, black, white and silver. I can imagine someone bought this car, restored it, cleaned and repaired all the rust that might have eaten some spots, and given new life to it. You'll see, but the process might have included upgrading some parts from the facelift version. When airbrushing color coats, I try to give more coverage to areas that are elevated and with too sharp edges, to avoid risking burning into the primer when later sanding on it. This is the first time that I'm using zero paint colors, and I have to say, I am not surprised how much people swear by them. Even if I am far from being an expert in airbrushing, the results are impressive. I only have a few areas that need correction before I lay down the clear coat, as all these small mistakes will likely be magnified, especially if I want to aim for the shiniest result. In fact, the first part I did work on was the bonnet, and it does show some overspray with something that I can only call orange peel. This is definitely due to going way too heavy on it, but thankfully it was a very limited area. There are some odd scratches that look like they belong to the underlying primer, which I failed to inspect properly. When looking at the rest of the body, the top is the part that drags my attention, as I can see a couple of defects and a large area that is likely caused by overspraying. Once again, this step is critical to ensure the flattest clear coat and minimize any correction at a later point. I clearly failed to do the same with the primer, as one of its functions is to help spot any irregularities on the surface. Let this be a lesson for the future. that I will likely forget. I am quite scared of wet sanding the color coat, as the risk of going through it and expose the primer is real and might be costly. In terms of technique, I will use the 3000 grit sponge with almost no pressure, same direction, frequently wiping to ensure I have obtained a smooth surface and I'm not overdoing it. Well, drama aside, I guess there's more work to be done here. It looks like I need to be way more careful. By reviewing the video, the nail of my pinky finger accidentally brushed against the surface, removing the thin layer that was left after the sanding. I will start by leveling everything off so that any residual scratches won't show up after painting on top of this. The bonnet is once again ready for a spray. Now it's time to sort out any imperfections that will likely be accentuated when clear coating. There is one in particular that stands out on the top of the body. As I'm doing this, I will take the opportunity to sand the rest of the top to a flat surface to eliminate the very light orange peel that you can probably see. Next step. I really was looking forward to this. While the color code was not too much of a hassle, well, aside from the bonnet, I guess, as you've seen, I really was looking forward to seal it under a nice top clear coat. I decided to make use of the bottle of UV clear coat from Mr. Hobby that is quite thick and will sustain the final sanding very well. I'll start with the underside, just to make sure that I'm not screwing things up too much, at least. This is also where mistakes can happen and will likely not be a major issue if they happen, because it can happen, but hopefully not. As I'm approaching to clear coat the body, I notice there are some drips on the door and quarter panel side, where one of the black trims will be. I think I ended up overspraying, either that or a combination of being too close or using a pressure setting too high that resulted in this. I wet sanded everything down to flatten them as much as possible with a 3000 grit sponge, and the subsequent respray involved isolating the area of the door and rear quarter panel, as you might do with an actual car. I guess spending time watching people fix car can give you some ideas. This solution unexpectedly surprised me on how effective and simple it was.
Two hours later.
So, welcome to the blank canvas. Beautiful black canvas. Now, we are getting to the point that it's time to get some shine. Get some shine on the car. So, the paint, you've probably already seen it in the previous video on how it is. And if I can zoom in a little bit, you can see the quality. For as much as it's shiny, it does have some orange peel. Not only that, there are some imperfections. For instance, in this place here, that are not particularly nice to look at. So what I did preemptively before starting this video, it was actually to sand it off. And I did 3000 grit sanding, all in the same direction, with slow wet sanding. I did on this side and on this side for as much as possible, just to even everything and making sure that everything is looking as smooth as possible. Before I do this side, I want to try to go through the maybe that's one of the two sides, so we can compare how it is, what is the difference, mostly as an experiment. I already did. I just want to preface that because if anybody has seen any of my previous videos, shorts that I published, you probably might have seen that I also already did the hood. I already passed the black panel liner on the grate there, and as you can probably see, the quality of the reflection, there's almost no imperfection. I managed to remove all the micro scratches that were here, and they kind of look quite good. It's hard to remove everything. The difference between the two kind of is relevant, and that's what we are trying to aim for. The process that I'm going to go for is going to be by starting by using the compounds that I have from Tamiya. They are we're starting with a coarse one, and then there is going to be fine and finish one, and at the end is going to be the actual wax. The whole thing will be applied with this super nice SPA tool, which I just got because, and before I was using some larger pads. Just to have an idea, the larger pads I was using are this size, were super different. I used them for the hood. I managed to do that, but definitely not something that are easy to maneuver, especially when you have a lot of creases like that. So smaller 25 millimeters pads, really cool. As you've seen done when wet sanding, the basic same rules apply to this process. Apply little to no pressure to avoid burning the clear coat, and avoid staying on the same spot as much as possible to avoid what is called ghosting. As I will be building up the gloss by going through the three different compounds, it is important to keep in mind that the coarse paste will remove the majority of the imperfections, while the other two are mostly used to get the actual gloss out in the two subsequent stages. Which is why it is so important to move constantly and stay away from sharp corners as much as possible. Without the rotary machine I'm using, this job would have been done by hand. And if you were to do that as I did in the past, pressure is perhaps the most difficult thing to keep constant when going through the three different sponges that Tamiya provides. That, together with covering all the surfaces equally. There is no doubt that the rotary machine is a major technological improvement that I freaking love. Now that I have done what I think is a sensible amount of passes with both the coarse and medium compound, I notice there is still a decent amount of imperfections on the surface, especially on some areas that are close to the corners. Here I am faced with the option of continuing without caring too much, with a reminder that the distance and picture quality will take care of hiding these imperfections. Or go back to the coarse compound and give it another go. I decide to opt for the second one, as I want to see how much I can push it with the rotary tool. And if you're asking yourself if it's not too risky, usually the only real problem at this point is just burning into the clear coat, by either staying too much on the same position or by pressing too much into the surface. Leaving aside these imperfections, I'm already quite impressed by the amount of reflection the second pass has already added. I can't wait to see how the finished product will look like. I am overall satisfied with the results. Yes, there are still some small imperfections here and there, but nothing that another pass of coarse compound cannot solve. But otherwise it's really immaculate. And with the results in my hand, I can compare also how much more dull the bonnet looks like now. So I'm likely going to use the rotary on this part in order to bring it to the same level as the rest of the body. I suppose the difference might be too noticeable otherwise. As for the body, I can see how bad the clear coat was, and being able to have a reference proves how much a difference it makes spending some time and patience on it. With the bodywork now done, I am happy to move forward. There is still a ton of work to get all the interiors done, and I can't wait to get my hands on the engine. I have some very cool things I want to try. Thank you so much for sticking with me.